Welcome back to SE3. You're here with Dick Ortega, the host, and I have Ralph Longo and Steven Hirschberg here with us. These are my real estate gurus. I trust these guys. I ask them questions whenever I have real estate concerns. And we're covering a bunch of topics today, ranging from AI and impact on real estate and evictions. So listen in, and if you have any comments, please chime in below. Thanks. Think about it like this, right? Like Jerry went to law school in a time where there wasn't even Word or maybe the internet. Like he was literally researching he took his bar exam written down, which I still have colleagues like that because the bar took a while to adjust to that. But you know, people that had to do research like in books in the library. And then they had, all of a sudden you had Word. I remember at DLA, I had a partner tell me that they had back in the day, they would literally handwrite the comments to the deal they were working on, and they'd have to FedEx it. And then they would have it, they were in DC, so if they couldn't get it out by like the cutoff time, they knew where the FedEx truck would pass the gate at the ECA airport and would go there and hand them the comments. So, you know, fast forward to now, like you can be emailing comments to a transaction like on a Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, whatever, it doesn't matter. So is it gonna evolve into just more volume, more work, more efficiency, or is it just gonna replace us? Like, and that's the question, right?
Probably a mix of both. Mix of both. Some people will be replaced, but I think people will adapt and learn. Like this is just the new way everything is gonna go. And either like you'll get on the train, you'll get off. But older lawyers are definitely gonna fall by the wayside a little bit. If you don't stick with the times, it's gonna be very difficult.
Jerry seems pretty modern. What about him?
He likes AI. But he's still kind of like he would be good to talk to because he's 60, so he's like right on the cusp of kind of not retirement, but he like knows the old way, but he's like still has enough runway left where he's embracing AI. And it's very interesting because at first he was very resistant to it, and then we kind of taught him how to use it, and now he sees it and he's like, "This is incredible!" It like blows his mind. So he can draft a brief.
It was like the last few months he's really been seeing him use it a lot. But back he would tell me back in when he first started law practice, the copy machine was the most profitable associate, right? Because you would charge the clients 25 cents a page. But even like I agree, even our generation, we were on Westlaw. I get it, completely different. I remember when we moved. The first time I moved offices with him, he had his Westlaw library. We got rid of it. It's useless.
Like a physical one.
Not 100, like 20, 30 books. Florida Reporter, cases A through C.
And they're constantly being updated?
That's how it used to work. They would every year, every quarter, they would be updated. Then you would have this subscription, and you get these books put into your law firm. We finally got rid of. I mean, obviously he got rid of those, but. I mean, but even for us, the way we research now compared to how we research in law school is completely different.
But I think in a way it's a good thing because it kind of democratizes law a little bit where like the big law firms, I imagine back in the 80s, 90s, like had such a competitive advantage. Having a law library, like how would you be a solo practitioner back then? What if you needed to do legal research? What would you do? You'd have to, I don't even know.
Well, you go to the law library in the courthouse.
You'd have to rent time and rent books from the law library. I mean, now anybody can do it, you know, from their house.
I took that for granted at DLA. They had a quarter of a floor, and it was already starting to be reduced because the internet was coming online. But we had a library, and it wasn't just like Westlaw and Lexis. They had magazines and periodicals and secondary sources, and then we had 2 full-time like librarians. So you would go down there and be like, I have this issue, and they're like, they start typing, start researching it, and they would help you do the research, and it was incredible. Like they would, obviously you still get the analysis back, the cases, whatever it may be, and you have to analyze it, break it down, and apply it to your case. But that was the big gap, right? Like from having questions to getting what the law says and then applying it to your case. That getting to the answers of what the case law says was a big heavy lifting that now seems to be far more efficient.
I wonder if they still have jobs as librarians. Probably not, right?
I mean, I wonder what the law library is in the law school now, because when we went, I graduated in 2014, so it's not that long ago. And I remember one L a year we would go up, they would teach you how to research, find the books, do this. I mean, now going on Lexus is like a Google search, and you find the same cases as it used to take 20 minutes just to find one case, and now you just put in the case, say this is what I need, and 10 cases come up. So it's I wonder how it is even just now in law school.
Is that good or bad, right? And for the legal profession, I don't know. I mean, we're more efficient.
I think the biggest, we're all going to adapt, and we'll see which way it goes, but my concern is for the younger attorneys starting off, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Because the reason I can do what I do now is because I was in those trenches, right? I remember drafting a resolution, and it coming back blood red, like literally marked down every single sentence, every single period had to be moved, but being in those trenches is kind of like taught me to what to look for and what to review. And as AI does a lot more of that initial compiling of data, initial analysis, and research, are they going to be able to learn that skill set to be able to eventually be a partner and understand everything that's happening in a case and kind of guide the ship?
Well, you need that experience of having some brief that you think is, I did such a great job on this, and I killed it. And then you go into the partner's office and you come out dripping in red lines. You need that shame. When you have to walk out like, oh no, I need to go and redo this whole thing. But that doesn't exist anymore, really.
It doesn't even exist just drafting it.
Yeah.
Like the first draft.
Yeah.
Just 2-3 years ago, every single letter I wrote was a keystroke. Yeah. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, of course, we would start with templates. You have whether it's a motion or contract, you have a template, right?
Yeah.
But still, the vast majority of it, every time you had to amend a contract clause or draft a fact section of a brief, it was you. And now, people can just go ahead and have AI do it. But then is AI doing it right? I know a law firm I've worked with, they had an associate do some work, do some deposition work, do things like that, and then the case came out that the AI was hallucinating. Right, and even especially early on, we would see that all the time. That AI is just hallucinating. It still does, and you can still got to catch it. People just trust it too much.
Yeah. I've had AI cited in one of my cases, like completely hallucinated law, and then we filed a motion, tried to tell opposing counsel. The next day, he stands up in court and cites the case. I'm like, I told you the case doesn't exist, and I think he got a pass. The judge was very friendly, but he got a pass on that one. But it was definitely a concern, but it's definitely getting much better. I think there's also that, I don't know what percentage to give it, that 1 to 5% chance that maybe these younger lawyers just learn how to prompt better than us, and then just completely replace us. Like, we're out here thinking we need this experience. They're like, I'll just come up with a better prompt. Watch this.
I think the experience is more knowing what issues to spot. For example, like if you're doing a lease, I do a lot of leases, and if you haven't actually read through a big lease and you just try to kind of do it piecemeal, like if you're some 25-year-old associate who doesn't know what to look for, you can put it into Claude and it'll give you what the issues are, but it's not going to think forward of, okay, what could happen 3 years from now, right? It still doesn't really have that. So I think you still need someone who has the experience to say, okay, what issues have I seen in the past that I think can arise in the future? And that is kind of where AI doesn't, and being a young associate who maybe, you know how to prompt it, but you still don't have that background of knowing, okay, these are real world applications where I've seen this cause be a problem. AI is not going to spot that. Maybe a little bit, but not to the extent that a lawyer who's trained, who's seen it, who's litigated a case where there was an issue, is going to, AI is not there yet. That's the way I'll say it. Maybe it will be eventually, but not.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I see that in construction. Sometimes it's about taking your foot off the pedal, right? Because if you're trying to close a deal, or if you want your client to get awarded this project, like you might be right, or this might be the fair provision, but you have to know what to let go of and what actually matters to your client. So, and that's definitely something that I haven't seen AI do. Like, if anything, it over-recommends too many changes 100%. And things like that. So you got to be able to make that strategic decision and educate your client. Like, look, we could ask for this, but that's gonna harm the deal, or that's not your priority here.
Well, AI can't put a business hat on, because we all do a lot of, we work with a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs. Like, there's sometimes when you're drafting an agreement where maybe it's not, how do I say this? It's not the most advantageous thing for your client, but they know, listen, this deal needs to get done. I know the risk. I'm willing to walk away from that risk. Like, put this clause in here. This needs to get done. I have financing coming through. I need this clause in here. Or I need this clause taken out. AI is not going to spot that. They can't. AI doesn't have the ability and also a young lawyer who's not trained and hasn't worked with business owners, doesn't have the experience to know what an entrepreneur needs. They're not going to be able to say, okay, maybe this one, there's risk, but maybe, we shift it to something else. So we look at this provision protected down the roads. That's where I think AI and younger kids who aren't trained or don't have the experience can't issue spot to that extent, where they're saying, okay, like, this clause is risky, but we need to keep it in or take it out for X, Y, and Z reason, business-wise, right? So that's something that definitely AI has not achieved. Maybe it will.
Yeah.
Maybe eventually you'll say,
maybe it will.
like, this is the business climate, and this is what I need, and AI will be able to do it.
I think it will as it gets better in learning you or learning your client.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I've seen it myself because with you tell it what the client's thinking, and it's like, okay, you can skip a few things. But I agree, the first time if you try to get AI to review a contract, this is terrible, and it's treating everything like a $100 million deal, and sometimes it's just $1 million deal. But at the end of the day, you're right. It doesn't have that human element, that business element, where you go to the client and say, "Listen, this is important. This is more important. So let this go. Keep this in." And some clients think, they ask me, "Well, what happened? Why is this clause important for the lender?" Well, if you default. I'm not worried about defaulting. If I default, I got bigger problems. Go ahead. Let that clause go. Yeah. I just need to focus more on the day-to-day business terms that are affecting my operation. I'm not going to worry about what happens if I don't pay because that's not a plan. Now, I always say I understand that, but that's not my job. My job is to think about the worst case. Yeah. But some clients want day-to-day more important than what happens if it all falls apart, right? And that makes sense, especially if they're a strong client and they're confident with themselves. But AI doesn't have that ability to have that conversation with the client. But will it have the ability for you to put in to
give it the right prompt?
What my client thinks, and then in reality, for like projects now, Claude. I have projects for different clients, and Claude knows what's going on with this client group and this client group, and Claude is just taking in all this information. The amount of data there is that AI is taking in, both from the public and from even just your own internal, workspace, is just massive. Yeah. So we'll see, and we'll see how much it changes and learns from you, because that's what it's doing, right? That's what AI is doing. It's taking a lot of data, and that data is going to be exceptionally powerful, especially all the data it takes from people just using the free versions. That data is out for free, right? If you pay for it, you opt out, the data is more private, but all the people putting in all that data, it's just out there, and that's a really powerful tool for the models to keep working on it.
Well, we had someone who used to work as an intern for us went to law school. He's in the process of getting a job, but one of his summer internships was working for one of the big AI companies. I think it was either OpenAI or Anthropic. I can't remember which one, but he went to a very good law school in New York. Very, very smart kid. And what he was hired to do, he was being paid very, very well to do this, was basically like a bar exam question would be given to him. And OpenAI would have him go and do the research and write a brief and review it, and he would redraft it, review it, redraft it, and he was giving them like a really complex they would give him a very complex legal prompt and make him physically do the research and physically handwrite it. Like, he couldn't use any AI, he couldn't use the internet. All he could use was like Lexis or Westlaw and his own brain, believe it or not, and go and write it and submit it to them. So they're using, all these AI companies are using real, they're using real humans to solve complex issues, and then they're putting that into the model. So he said also they're doing it for like a doctor, right? Like, I have this really complex medical case, go give us the answer. So AI is learning from humans as well. So I didn't know that. I thought it was just pulling from the internet or pulling from forums or Reddit or whatever. But as they continue to do that, it's going to keep getting better and better and better. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, the way he was explaining it was, they're trying to really pull the human element more into it, rather than like kind of what we're talking about to get the business side. You're going to learn from humans. You're not, an AI can't think.
Yeah, it sounds like they were trying to reverse engineer like the process, which is great. That's why it's gotten better. All right, guys. So I know Ralph and your firm as like our real estate expert. When I have a real estate question, I reach out to you guys, and I know that you guys do a lot more than just real estate. But the other thing that I find interesting about your firm is a little bit of what we do here is we do transactional work, and we also do the litigation. So tell me a little bit about that, the dynamic of the firm, like how a deal comes in, who works on it, How do you, and then when it breaks up, who handles the litigation? Are you guys both on both sides of the coin?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty much a 50-50 split. We all have real estate matters going on, litigation matters going on. And one thing we do really well, I think, as a firm, and we always try to focus on it, is we always kind of powwow when we'll talk about, hey, I have this case, what do you think? That's and kind of like what we're going back to about younger associates and whatever, that experience of being in the office. And because a lot of people, I know this wasn't really your question, but people want to work from home and not be in the office or work from remote or wherever they are. Being able to go to someone's office and say, hey, Stephen, I have this case, what do you think? And then a 3-minute conversation will make you think, oh, I didn't even spot that issue. Like, thank you. Yeah. That happens every single day. Or I'll go to Jerry's office and say, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, I had this case 10 years ago and this happened. So that's really important. But I think the way our practice kind of works is, whatever comes in, sometimes we'll work together on the litigation. If it's bigger, real estate, we kind of handle ourselves. But the amount of times I'll go to Stephen's office and say, hey, I have this title issue. What do you think? That's every day. I'm driving him crazy about, hey, because Stephen's kind of the real estate guru. He has more real estate experience than me. And on some litigation aspects, I might have more experience than him. So we kind of just go back and forth all the time. And sometimes, he'll handle a matter, I'll handle a matter, and sometimes we'll work together on it. But I think we've really done a good job of working together and kind of not splitting the work, but we'll play to our strengths, right? So if I have a really complicated title matter, hey, Stephen, do you want to come in on this and help me? Right. Or if it's a litigation matter, what do you think about this? I have this issue with venue, or I have an issue with this motion to dismiss. What do you think? So that's kind of how we do it. Yeah.
But I will say, though, contrary, I agree with you. It's really important to be able to just get together and talk like that. Yeah. But some people will say, well, I can just give a case to AI and get the AI's decision. Yeah.
Going back to
AI. Yeah. It's funny because you can have that conversation. Like, what do you think? What are the issues? I much prefer actually having people around and 3 people, 4 people around and making those decisions helps a lot. And one of the things that I think really separates us, there's a lot of real estate attorneys. Yeah. There's a lot of title companies. Yeah. Unfortunately, from our side on the residential side, we compete not just with law firms but with title companies.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
But I don't think I would ever hire one to, at least not if I'm buying.
We can have a whole separate podcast.
We can talk about that for hours.
Versus attorneys. Yeah.
But what separates us from, if you're doing residential from the title companies or from really anyone, is, and I've seen it myself, I've even seen people go under contract for commercial properties, and then all of a sudden there's a default issue, there's a dispute. Oh, no, I just do transactional. Yeah. I don't even write the demand letter.
Yeah.
We go to court. So you have us from contract through closing or contract through dispute, we're there. So that's what really separates us from my opinion, because we have that experience. Jury trials, bench trials, appellate court. We have the full length experience. We've disputed the very contracts, the FAR bar contracts. We've taken those cases to court. So that's what really separates us from the typical transactional, especially a smaller transactional firm. They're usually just doing transactions. Yeah. We do both. We not can do both. We do both. We have lots of cases pending and obviously lots of transactions moving forward.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes to switch from your war hat to let's make this deal, let's get this deal done. Yeah. So it is, totally. But given my experience, I started at working on primarily a large transactional firm, and then I went to work at a boutique litigation firm, and that's something that we still have now. And part of the reason I've focused on construction, I like it, I understand my client's business, but I'm helping them put the contracts together, and then I'm there if there's a dispute and preventing it from getting to court, and if it gets to court, it's also me. And the experience that it's given me and understanding okay, everybody's worried about this right now, but that's not not where the problem is gonna come. The problem is gonna sneak in under this provision or this other provision, and I think that's it's an incredible, powerful tool to know that either you or, from a client's perspective, knowing that your lawyer can see, for lack of a better term, see the future or see the issues where they come from, and is already thinking how to prevent them. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah. Well, to your point, your litigation practice really informs your transactional practice because what issues have been litigated. You'll say, okay, you're drafting kind of what we were talking about before. You're drafting this contract, and the client might be focused on these 3 issues. This one issue is what's going to end up bringing you to court, right? This one vague term
that you've litigated over 3 times, no, we need to fix, this is what we need to focus on. So kind of to your point, if you don't do both, I think if you only do transactional and you just say like, if it goes to litigation, my hands are off, you can't draft a contract as effectively. Maybe if you do 1 million of them, you'll get better at it. But there's nothing, like you said, being in the trenches and knowing like, I went to a jury trial over this and this was the issue that the judge hung their hat on, and the jury hung their hat on. If you don't know that, you can't be as good of an attorney. It's just the reality.
Draft, like what to revise in it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that even at DLA, right, you had very sophisticated partners that have been doing this for a long time, and for the most part, they were in their lane, right? Like they were just doing, but they didn't hesitate to pick up the phone and call the litigator 3 floors down, right? So, and that's what I like about, so if it's in the same person, great, but if it's in the same firm, it's fantastic, right? Like being able to pick up the phone and be like, I have this issue, this is the direction my client wants to go in, or here's what I'm thinking, and then the litigator tells you, yeah, but you gotta put on the guardrails, watch out for this, watch out for that. So that's a very important focus for us, and I try to like educate my clients on, and sometimes, they're like, why are you talking about litigation? I'm trying to buy this company. I'm like, because that's the other half of my business, is the people that call me after it went south.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to think of, like, if you're doing an operating agreement, for example, a good metaphor, I don't know who told me this, but it's like a prenup for a business, right? And you have to think, when things go bad, it's not going to be as easy to unwind the business or to resolve a dispute when both parties hate each other, right? And I think we run into this a lot in Miami in particular. I'm from the Northeast, as you guys know, and things are done a lot differently there. Then Miami is more of like a Wild West, where people just say, oh, we'll figure it out. He's my friend, don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about the operating agreement. And then fast forward 3 years later, oh, this guy screwed me over and I can't believe it. And, he took the money, and I told you, I warned you, we should have done the operating. Why didn't we do it? Oh, well, he was my friend. I thought everything was fine. But you have to, kind of to your point again, if you've litigated, like, you have to, at formation, that's when you make all these changes. That's when you figure out, okay, if we have to have a business divorce, like, what terms do we need now that are going to protect us down the road, right?
Well, I've always said if the litigations we've handled,
I know exactly
some
what you're
of the
say,
larger ones in federal court, I've always said, if our clients would have just came to us before, I would be retired. Like, I would have just taken 10% of what they invested and say, here, let me take 10%. Take the 90. Because some of them were so obvious.
Oh my goodness!
Right,
I know
take the 10%. We'll give you 90% back. You'll keep your 90%. You won't lose 100%, because that's what our clients have lost sometimes before coming to us. I would be retired. Right? And people just, I don't want to deal with an attorney. I don't want to go. It costs money. An attorney is an insurance policy at a certain way of looking at it. And it's funny. I have some larger clients, and I've gone through litigations, not through any fault of any attorney or themselves, just because the situation was that. And now as they've gone through a whole process, I have one client that we did state court, bankruptcy for a loan they gave. They ended up getting all their money back, secured loan, it was fine. But now every time we go through another transaction, they look at it and say, oh, wow, I don't want that to happen again, so let's make sure we do this right. But people, for whatever reason, sometimes just don't want to. They just see the attorney as getting in the way, and I think that's something we do well as well.
For sure.
You were talking about it. If you don't get in the way, right? You got to let business be business, and this is important. That's not as important. You explain the client the risk, and they have to make the decision at the end of the day. So that's the way I see it. But it's interesting when you get to do the disputes, but also try to prevent them. And that's where I say every word counts. I've read DCA opinions where a decision was made over a comma or over an and. Every word counts. Every single character counts sometimes.
And I understand what you're saying, Ralph. With so I represent some clients in construction that are from the Northeast, and the conversations are just entirely different, right? They come to me and they're like, either when they have an issue or when they're trying to get into a deal, it's like, hey, here's what they'll start with the document first. Here's the agreement, and here's where, and then I have, my people, Cubans and other, and then unfortunately they'll come to me and they give me a 30-minute, 45-minute explanation of everything that the other side did wrong, and I'm like, man, I'm sorry you're in this situation. Now let's see what the document says. What document?
Yeah,
exactly. You said you have an LLC. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, you have an operating agreement, right? No, we don't really have one of those. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's a very common story. They don't have the documents, and whether it's by trust or friendship, or maybe they don't want to see lawyers because, like, you know, like the way people avoid doctors too, they don't want the bad news.
Yeah.
But it's so important to invest at the beginning it just saves you so much money and headaches.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, operating agreement is such a simple document. You can make it exceptionally simple.
Yeah.
And that is something that I always see. And every time I draft one for a client, like, oh, is this really needed? Because, oh, it's my brother, or it's my best friend, or no, this is my great business partner. It says, my job isn't to say everything's great. My job is to say what happens when everything goes bad, right? So yes, this is needed. I've had clients where they're bringing somebody in to do sweat equity. Oh, I don't want to be too strong on them because, you know, I don't want them to feel like I'm bullying them. Listen, this is your money. It's your project. That's great. You're bringing somebody in to do the work. This is what the terms have to be, right? And I get it. They feel more like they're making it personal. It's business.
Yeah, it's business.
It's business. So the operating agreement, if there's one agreement that everyone should just be able to just understand, you have to do it. You open an LLC, there should be an operating agreement. Period.
It should almost be mandatory, right? Like it should be required. I think it is, but just nobody gets it.
Well, you just default to whatever the LLC Act says, which isn't very favorable a lot of the time.
It doesn't take into account who contributed what or what waterfall you came up with.
Of course not,
So you guys also deal with a lot with international clients. I don't have a lot of those, and I'm wondering, you know, how is that different? Obviously, there's the tax obligations and things like that, but even in building the relationship and gaining that trust with international clients, how is that different? Let's just start with that, because I'm also interested if you're seeing changes in the amount of investment coming in from international.
I think it rotates, and our managing partner Gerardo could talk a lot more about this. But he was always talking about, in the 90s, there was a lot of investors from Colombia, and then it was Venezuela, and then it was Brazil, and a lot of it is currency fluctuations in different countries will depend on who's bringing their money here. Then it was the Argentines. There was a big wave in the early 2000s. Now it's a lot of people from Europe. But I think a lot of them want just guidance on, like you said, you know, taxes, structuring, because they're thinking a lot of the time, and Stephen can probably talk a bit more about this, but they're thinking like, how am I going to buy this property? I want to buy it. I want the property. They're not thinking the real problems are on the exit, right? That's when you have the withholdings. That's when you have any sort of tax issue, or the way the property was held, or somebody dies. Or I had a good case recently, an interesting case, where a very wealthy South American family bought a property here in Miami, in Coral Gables, very nice property, back in the 90s under a BVI company. And the father ended up transferring the property to himself out of that BVI in order to get a loan, right? He died suddenly, very shortly after, right? The property from 2002 in Coco Plum appreciated tremendously. So they go to sell it, and the title search shows, oh, this is owned by, you know, so-and-so, and his personal name. So we're going to have to go through his estate. It's going to cost you $6 million or whatever it was in estate taxes, right?
Wow. So
what we ended up having to do is do a quiet title action, get all these affidavits. It cost them a ton of money, way less than the tax hit would have been. But it just, when you don't plan properly, and again, we were kind of talking about Miami's has like a Wild West feel. Like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll transfer it back. He didn't, and almost cost the family millions of dollars, right? So we see that a lot, where more on the litigation side, where you're trying to unwind things that were done improperly years ago. And I think that a lot of foreign investors, they just don't know how the U.S. works. They didn't get good advice from an attorney on the front end, and that ends up hurting them on the back end. That's where you really have the issues.
Yeah, I mean, for foreign real estate, one of the biggest things is the estate tax.
Yeah.
Because it's 40%.
Yeah.
So
of anything over $60,000.
Right. So anything over $60,000, you got it. And there's simple ways to do it. There's more complicated ways to do it, and that's about referring it to people that do more trusted estates, referring it to good CPA. I have some clients from really my international client base is mostly Europe. I have some funds from Europe, some real estate investors from across Europe. And my experience, they just want to be able to trust you. They want to understand the overall picture before they get into things, and that's what you do. You explain it to them. This is how it works. This is how the exit works. This is the CPA I'm going to refer you to. Right. If it's a personal property, this is the trust and estates attorney I'm going to refer you to, and just so you can diagram it and make them understand it. Because it depends. If it's just someone coming from Europe, they're just buying a house for $1 million, it's straightforward, but they still want to feel comfortable. If it's a larger company, they're usually coming in through an attorney from Europe or something like that. So they just want to understand the basics, make sure you have a good handle of the things, and usually it's about good communication. I think when you have foreigners coming in from anywhere, South America or Europe, it's about having good communication with them and making sure that you communicate what the overall, how it looks, right, from beginning to end, and they feel comfortable and they move forward. I think that's what we're pretty good at doing. And lots of either Zooms, meetings when they come in, there's lots of FaceTime. They want more FaceTime typically than a typical client. I mean, I have clients that we purchase not just even homes, commercial properties, 10, 12, 15 unit buildings. I won't see them until the closing table. Yeah. It's not like that for the international clients, whether Latin America or Europe. They want to see you. They want to talk to you. If they're in town, they always want to come to the office. For sure. Where
I have seen. I don't have as many international clients, but the ones that I do, they want to be here. They're like, can I come to your office tomorrow? I'm like, you're gonna come in? They're like, yep, we want to be there. I'm like, okay, right, we'll come in.
Yeah. Well, I think for a lot of them, there's a lot of distrust, specifically from Latin American clients of lawyers. They've heard horror stories, and we have a lot of Venezuelan clients, right? They always want to come to the office. They always want to sign in person. I think a lot of it is they just want, like Steven said, they want that FaceTime. They want a relationship. I think it's just very cultural also. Like it's more impersonal with an American client. But they want, like you said, they want to come to the office. They want to go to lunch, go to dinner, meet my wife. It's more of a family thing. I think to Steven's point, we're very good at that. Is okay, we'll always make time for our clients. If they want to come in, like sure, I'll have a meeting with you today. Come in. Right? I think that's that personal touch. Again, going back to AI and younger associates and all that, being able to still have that personal touch with the client, I think is very important. Very important.
Interesting.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about AI. It's crazy.
You can't get away from it.
It's great. No, I know.
To avoid it's at the center of everything. I feel like for the most part.
Yeah,
it is, and one of the things I enjoy most sometimes talking about disputes and realtors is sometimes you'll see two people going back and forth, and it's obvious they're just using AI going back and forth.
Yeah. The bullet points, the ChatGPT.
I'm just like, so it's sometimes, and not even editing it, just. I've seen it multiple times between clients, between agents, whoever. And you see this email chain of a dispute starting, right? Yeah. And it's just AI response. So it's funny, who's actually making the arguments right now?
It's ChatGPT versus Claude. Right?
I mean, it's just there's cues, and I've had it in motions too. I recently had a motion that was obviously looked like it was AI. Mm-hmm. It had all the way it was formatted with I forget what the elongated dashes.
The M dash.
M dash.
Yeah, right.
And I was looking at the cases, and he was citing these cases. These are real cases. I started reading the cases, and they're about completely different things.
Yeah.
And I actually mentioned to the judge, and the judge honestly didn't care. And that was very disappointing.
That's the first time I had it happen to me. I was like, because we. Not perfect, but we try so hard, like to not waste the court's time and to not cite made-up cases, and then it happens on a crucial issue, and the judge just kind of lets it slide. I'm like, I always feel like I have this joke with one of the other partners here at the firm, and it's if I make a mistake, it's over. But I see so many people get away with so much, right? I just never get that pass.
I just wonder if judges are seeing it a lot now. I don't know.
Definitely.
I mean, we're not a high volume practice. I'm not a motion calendar every day, right?
No.
I just don't know if judges are seeing it so much that unless it's something egregious that they're just, oh my God, that they're just passing it by. This was 3 cases cited, real cases, that had absolutely nothing to do with the holdings. And actually one of them, he quoted a line that didn't exist in the case, in quotation.
To be fair to AI, I don't think this is appropriate at all. This was happening to me before AI, right?
Yeah.
I remember one of the most egregious ones was, and it was an arbitration statute, and it was basically, I forget the specific issue, but bottom line is, this lawyer ellipsed over, it was basically an accept this provision, accept this. So she ellipsed over like the main prong of the provision says, and then just kept the accept this and said that this is what the court had to do. So I go and I was like, wow, she's right then, like this is what the court has to do. I pull up, it was a statute, it wasn't like a hidden thing. I pull up the statute and she literally ellipses over the main prong of the provision. So I've seen this stuff happen before. I'm not sure if this one was a mistake, try to give the benefit of the doubt. There was a ruling, again, I have no idea what the ruling was at this point, this is years ago, but there was a ruling that was terrible for me. And the opinion did, in fact, cite it. But it was the appellate court siding what the trial court said and said we don't agree with that. So it was literally the express issue that the case was reversed on, and they cited it as binding law. So again, I think to some extent this has been happening, for years. And AI is now, of course, with AI, it's just moving a lot faster.
Well, when judges are writing their opinions, I assume they're using AI too, right? Is there going to be a wave of decisions with hallucinations? And
I think the technology is getting, not only is AI thinking capabilities growing tremendously, you have ChatGPT. It seems to be a weaker or older model, but within Lexis, I know that Claude or Anthropic is working on a deal with Westlaw. So these models are being integrated, and once you apply those models and the language and that understanding with the full context of the database that Westlaw has, it's going to be incredibly powerful.
I do see less hallucinating. It's more, here's a real case, but not really what it says. I think that's what you're seeing more of. Even though I saw something on Instagram, a New York Court of Appeals was talking to some attorney saying you're just making up these cases, and then the other side came up and the court says, why didn't you mention these fake cases in your reply? I'm concerned about that too.
He didn't read the cases, obviously.
I don't know, everyone thinks technology makes people lazier. I don't think AI has made us lazier, honestly. Like we were saying before we started, I think AI is making us sharper, and that we're expected to do more now. We're expected to be perfect. At least that's the way I see it, because we all use AI. When I use it, I spend hours looking over everything, doing everything. It helps me proofread, it helps me think of ideas. But at the end of the day, now that we have AI, everyone expects everything to be even better than it was before. So that's what I see.
Something you mentioned about you sometimes refer clients to either CPAs or trust and estate guys,
all the time.
And I think that's a very important thing of being at a smaller firm, is having trusted partners. So, and particularly for you guys, there's 3 of you, and you guys are working on these massive deals. Like, how often do you reach out to? Do you have your set colleagues that all right, we know this guy is gonna. Well, we have a tax question. What are the primary areas that you normally find, at least with respect to real estate, that you end up bringing in co-counsel or bringing in partners to help you solve it?
What you just said, taxes, trust and estate issues, I have a lawyer who, any trust and estate issue, here you go. And I know he's going to do a great job, and he'll send real estate stuff to us. It goes back and forth, but it's so important, especially with foreign nationals on the trust side, the tax side, to have a CPA, because we always say we're not tax attorneys, we're not land use attorneys, we don't touch zoning. There's a few issues where even if we know the answer, hey, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax attorney, but here is this lawyer who I trust, who I know is going to do a great job, who's not going to overcharge you, here you go. And your hands are clean of it. You let them issue the opinion, and we stay away from it.
Because CPAs always. We're not tax attorneys. Bankruptcy. Big one. I have 2 bankruptcy attorneys I trust a lot. They do phenomenal work. Trust and estates. Those are the 3 that we're always referring. And land use. We don't do zoning. Land use and zoning is so much of a relationship game as much as a law game that you just have to. We always have to palm those off. I think there's been a few that we've tried, and some minor things we just needed an application to be extended because of a state of emergency. And we've done those type of things. I deal with land use now on my second job. But those are the 4 that we always make sure to send out, and we have a pretty small network of people that we trust that we know give good results for that.
IP is another one for me, and I started venturing into IP, and because my clients were having issues, and then after a few, I was like, this is forget patents, but even just regular IP and trademark issues, because it comes across in these larger transactions where you're having employee or executive agreements that go to these issues. But then I realized, I was like, you know what? There's somebody out there that knows exactly what to do. And even if their rate might be higher, it doesn't matter because I'm going to spend twice as long as them figuring this out. Yeah. So IP is another one. And bankruptcy. So we had an issue recently where a colleague of mine, it was a litigation. It was it was a foreclosure. The house was going up for sale, and right before the foreclosure sale, the other party files for bankruptcy, and it was clearly intended to delay. But they went to file something in federal court, and they were admitted in that district, but not the bankruptcy court. And it was going to take like 5 or 10 days just to get admitted to be able to file. They didn't have the time to get a bankruptcy lawyer involved right away. So internally, we met and we try to learn from other people's not mistakes, but from other people's obstacles. That how do we prevent this? Yeah. What if we have a situation like that? And my team was like, oh, let's just get you licensed in the bankruptcy court and you'll never have to worry about this. I was like, you know what? Let's not do that. Yeah, I'm going to find a bankruptcy lawyer that I can call on a Saturday at midnight, but I'm not going to go and get licensed to all these bankruptcy courts.
Let me tell you, I not from the inside, from the outside, because real estate involves bankruptcy often. Yeah. And I've dealt with it a lot. And the bankruptcy bar is a small group.
Very small.
They all know each other. There's a lot of them that do really good work. The two I trust do phenomenal work. But it's a small group. It's relationship driven. Yeah. Even with the judges. Mm-hmm. Like most of the judges were former bankruptcy bars. The trustees all know each other. So it's an interesting group as I've gotten to know the group because I just have clients that have to deal with it once in a while. Yeah. And it's nothing. I would never touch it. Yeah. And those bankruptcy attorneys, that's 90% of what they do. They do a good job at it, and it's a different world. Yeah. It really is a different world out there. And IP too. It's another one we don't try. I mean, listen, we don't do criminal. We don't do immigration. It's a lot of stuff we don't do. But on the business side,
stuff we do, family. Yeah. But there's issues that these everything that I think you guys just mentioned are stuff that our clients are faced with regularly, right? Like whether in construction, real estate deals, you end up, a bankruptcy issue or buying a property out of bankruptcy, or you have a legitimate company that needs to protect some IP, and those are the issues that I keep on getting asked questions about, and I'm like, I need to find the right partner and refer this to them.
Well, and I think clients appreciate that too, right? Like to your point, if you handle that bankruptcy issue, how much are you going to have to charge because you're going to have to educate yourself on it. It's like, here's a great lawyer, he's going to treat you right, and the client appreciates it. Because if you send them a bill for $50,000 and half of it is because you had to spend time learning the statute, right, or doing the research where the bankruptcy lawyer can do it in 2 hours because that's all they do, the client's going to remember that. They're going to say, okay, he referred me to somebody who was great, and they appreciate it. Exactly. They definitely appreciate it.
And for finding those great people, I have a few, but I don't have my Rolodex of for every single profession. I'm still actively working on building that. So because I have referred some cases on immigration or family law matters, and then I hear that the client maybe didn't have the best experience, and then that's always like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have referred anybody, So that's also it happens.
You learn. I'm part of a group that has a lot of different attorneys and a lot of good attorneys that we trust a lot, but it's happened. I've referred people to people. Oh, they didn't pick up. They didn't call back. I really wanted to use them, and it'll happen. All right, well, here's the next name, or I found somebody else. All right, that's fine. I'm not taking referral fees for these type of things. This is just about helping the client move on and get business done, especially for clients that keep coming back to us. Right? It's about making sure that their business is succeeding and putting them together with the right professional. That's really it.
So I want to talk a little bit about your side hustle, but before we get to that, what is your? I know you guys are my real estate gurus, but I know you not dabble, but I know you've built your own experience in crypto. I know you've done some large deals, but separate from the stuff that you've explored, what's your firm trying to grow into? What are you guys trying to expand into?
I think one thing that we've been discussing a lot, it's funny, it came up with me during a networking meeting, is as I said, hey, I'm a real estate attorney, and we started talking, and she said, well, and we started talking about landlord-tenant work, and she said, you know what, maybe because we've handled hundreds of evictions in Dade and Broward, A
Steve
lot of
is being
residential.
modest. He's the most experienced landlord-tenant lawyer
I mean,
in South Florida, possibly.
I'm up there. I've
Yeah.
handled hundreds
Yeah.
and hundreds of evictions, a lot of residential, a good amount of commercial. And she said, that's what you should be leading with.
Yeah.
There's a lot of real estate attorneys.
Mhm.
There is not a lot of landlord-tenant attorneys. And she's right. And I actually had a conversation with somebody just last week, and he said, oh, wait, you do landlord-tenant stuff? I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to call you. I was like, yeah, we do that. So that is an area that we're looking into because there's a lot of work. The residential side is interesting. It's more consumer practice. But obviously there's a lot of landlords out there. There are tens of thousands of evictions filed in residential evictions. Mm-hmm. But on the commercial side, there's a lot of issues representing either tenants or landlords. Mm-hmm. It's something that nobody really necessarily markets themselves as doing it. That's all I do. Yeah. There's a few people out there, and there's a few that are doing a good job at it. But that's something we have a lot of real estate, a lot of experience with. Yeah. And with our clients, we already do it for our client base. Right. So that's that. In my opinion, for me, that would be the next thing that we're trying to expand on.
Yeah, I mean, we do it. Like Steven just said, we do it anyway. It's kind of like a secondary service we offer. Is, we do a lot of leasing and things like that. And when the tenant doesn't pay, okay, we'll handle the eviction for you. But I mean, think about it. Do you know who's the landlord-tenant person in Miami? It doesn't really. It's a very not underserved because we're handled, but it's not really. There's not a lot of focus on it. People just look at it like a secondary thing because, we'll worry about the lease and the guy doesn't pay. It's like, we'll kick him out. But there's really no focus, especially on the commercial side. Those are great cases, right? They're great cases. They're complex. They're interesting.
I'm curious about this because it's similar. I haven't handled hundreds, but I also rent some properties. Yeah. I was big into real estate from the beginning. I've always loved real estate. And then I also have some property management companies, and I've handled some evictions, and it's been difficult sometimes, the amount in dispute versus what you end up charging to do this right. Like, so
absolutely,
obviously there's attorney's fees. So how is that making sense? So for a while, and I see this to your point, I see it. There's a lot of firms that handle this on the side, or because they have an existing client base that has an eviction every now and then. And it's almost like they're not proud of it, right? It's like it's like, oh, I'm the landlord-tenant lawyer, but they want to be proud, like I handle some super complex thing. Yeah, right. But these are, again, little by little, I've had a few clients request this, and on the commercial side, and they need the help. Yeah. And one of the things I've struggled with is, how do I justify the cost that I know is going to take versus, and for some clients it doesn't matter, right? They have a large property. Yeah. They just can't have one tenant, set a bad precedent for others. There's other business decisions. But sometimes when there is a small, nominal amount of rent or damage, say $10,000 or $20,000, and litigation, and it's going to be either that or more.
Plus the headache, the time. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I do residential evictions. We don't post about it. You're right. You're like, do you want to be the residential eviction guy? Honestly, if you can get enough volume, you do. Because there's 40,000 residential evictions filed in Miami-Dade County every year.
Really? Wow. That's an interesting stat.
Between 30 and 40. Last time we checked the stats, it might have been high because of COVID, but there's a lot. Yeah. Right? It takes a long time for the sheriff to execute the writ. It can take over a month, unless you pay the expedite fee, which is $2,000. So the way I see it is, we don't charge $200, right? There are some people that do that, but I mean, I'm going to charge you a month of rent because you're not going to get paid for a month or two. Yeah. And we know how to push the case faster. We know how to get things done as quickly as possible. I've seen every excuse in the book. Honestly, a lot of the county judges recognize me and know me, and they understand when they see me that I'm trying to just make a deal and get things done. 70% of my residential cases settle. Why? Because I tell my client, you can either pay the sheriff $2,000, you can give the tenant 10 days to leave, the judge will sign an order, we'll get them out quickly, this is my experience, 90% of the time they leave, etc. And the judges try to push resolutions much faster than especially much faster than the sheriff can do the writ. And that's where you get the experience of knowing how long it's going to take the sheriff to get out there, how often do tenants usually leave, things like that really help the cases go fast. So you're going to, on a residential case or even a commercial case, you're going to pay us a month or two of rent. But either you pay us or you don't get paid at all for 3 to 5 months. I've seen some people try to file pro se cases and they got stuck with tenants for 6-8 months, a year,
especially
plus.
commercial.
a year plus not paying rent. And then these are just LLCs or individuals don't have money, right? So you're not going to get the money back. So spend the money now, get them out fast. We know how to get the orders from the court. We know how the statute very well, and that's the benefit. So it won't be cheap, and I get that sometimes too. Or you take the risk because there are people that try to do it pro se or try to file it themselves, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
To circle back to AI one last time before we get into Steven's side hustle, and this is more of a question. Do you think with AI, I'm just sitting here thinking about it, the way it's democratized the access to law, it's so much easier for a tenant now to fight the landlord, because if you're some landlord, a lot of these tenants were in Miami-Dade, English isn't their first language, they get served with these complaints, they don't really know what's going on, they default and you get them out. But now with AI, copy and paste it into ChatGPT, here's your answer, go file it, right?
They know to file a motion to determine rent.
Right.
But that's stops it. Right. It's the only way you can stop it. Either put your money in or determine rent. But I know that if they don't provide proper evidence, I can strike that motion without a hearing. Right.
But do you think AI is kind of making it easier for tenants?
I see AI responses all the time in landlord-tenant. All the time, and I deal with unlawful detainers too, which is a little different. It's the ex-girlfriend who won't leave, or the brother, or the parents' estate, and the brother won't leave the property, or this person won't leave, or I let my cousin in for a week, and now he's been there for 5 months and has his address on his driver's license, so the police won't kick him out, right? All those things. People are smart, and it's you can game the system. You just have to have somebody on the other side that has experience dealing with the gaming of the system. And I've dealt with so many of those by now that I've seen most of the games.
You'd be a great if they ever did the landlord-tenant division, you'd be a great judge for it.
I think I would. I agree. I once had a house that was empty for sale, and some people just moved in. You know what they did?
That.
They signed up some mailings. They got a piece of mail to their house. We called the sheriff, the police, and the police said, "Hey, they gave us a piece of mail with their name on it.
It's a civil matter.
We can't do it. Civil matter. You got to go to court." I mean, people know. They know what to do. I got them out. Thankfully, got them out pretty fast. But it's not. It's a different world now with AI, and it does make pro se litigants more powerful.
I don't think that this was going to lead to an issue, but so I started working on a purchase agreement recently. I mentioned to you guys that I brought into the deal a little bit late, and they're buying the business, but they're going to keep operating out of the warehouse that my client owns, and they're like, "Oh no, we're just going to operate there to the end of the month, and then we'll leave." And I'm like, okay, but is there a lease? Is there a document? And like, is there what dictates the rent? Like, what if they stay after? And I was like, and they were like, no, we don't really need that. I'm like, no. Listen, guys, we need this. We need at least a one-page document, something that and I hope it doesn't. And these are all sophisticated people. They're buying a business for over $1 million, so it's not going to be your pro se litigant trying to squeeze out a few more months. But I was like, you need to have something in writing, because I know this could be an issue. So. Yeah, no, the eviction stuff. Oh, well, following up on the eviction, do you handle or litigate cases where there are damages? Like, do you actually tend to pursue those, or some of your clients have that interest?
Sometimes. On the residential side, almost never. I honestly, on the residential side, whenever a tenant comes back and starts fighting a security deposit, most of my residential clients have a good amount of units, 50, 100, 200 plus, 300 plus units. I just tell them to pay the money back. I've dealt with it. I went to mediation. I went to county court. You're going to pay me $1,000 to go to spend a day when the deposit's $1,500. Just pay the $1,500 and move on. And that's really for my institutional clients. They do it right. They send the demands out right for security deposits. They do it all right. It's rare that the tenant comes after them. I tell them, you know what, a tenant, just pay it. Just get rid of it. It's not unless you want to hire a small claims court, unless you want to have your own property manager go and do it. It's not worth it. You're going to pay me more money than the security deposit. And then on the rent, commercial side, yes, you'll see it. Usually only if there's a personal guarantee. And when I see a lease without personal guarantee in commercial, I'm just like,
you're going after some LLC that has nothing.
On the residential side, it's exceptionally rare because it's just not worth the money. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I have clients calling me, I'm owed $40,000, I owe $50,000. I'm just like, I don't think it's enough money to go after. The court system is made now for $100,000 plus. I don't think it's made for $30,000.
That number, because I basically instinctively, there's no specific calculation that I have, but I have this conversation with my client, and then even when it's 100, 150, I'm like, oh, you're like right on the cusp where it's not worth it, but I know this is a lot of money, right? Yeah. It's a lot of money, but if you're under 100, I'm like, guys, it's just the system, even if you're in county court, like it just doesn't make sense. I mean, unless you're a sophisticated guy, and the odds are that if you're sophisticated and you could handle small claims court on your own, you can probably make more money focusing on your business than trying to play lawyer, like, on the side.
Well, people don't realize how much litigation kind of takes out of you, right? And I've said this to you, I've said this to Stephen as well. Like, we always have conversations with clients. We call it like the litigation cycle, where in the beginning, the client, we got to go after this guy. He screwed me over.
It's personal.
Yeah, I'm willing to go all the way. Yeah. And then, sure enough, a year later, we're gearing up for trial, and you need your retainer replenished. And I've spent a lot of money on this case, and I don't know why are we at this spot, and they want to take my deposition, and like, you have to be willing, if you're a client, to go all the way to trial, and that takes, even if you're doing it cheaply, it's usually 6 figures. Yeah. Right? And it's just like you said, the system, especially if you're in federal court. Like, I had a client recently who had a pretty serious federal case filed against them, and so I don't have any money. What do I do? Like, can you just can you do this on a contingency for me? And I was saying, like, here's all and I used Claude to help me map out. Here's all of the things I'm going to have to do for you. Here's how much everything's going to cost. And I think it's really important to be very upfront with your client and say, like, I know it's expensive, but this is, if you want me to defend your case properly or to prosecute your case properly, this is what it's going to cost. And there's going to come a time where you're going to be very mad about the bill, but if you're willing to go all the way, this is how much I'm going to charge you. And it is what it is.
Find that, I mean, back to that Northeast reference, but my clients that are from the Northeast are, more American, like, I have that conversation and they go back to the drawing board and we have a conversation about, like, how are we going to solve this? And a lot of my South Florida clients, which is the majority, they're just principal. And then they start getting, I heard somebody refer to it as the bill therapy, right? They get their invoice and they start realizing what you told them. And I mean, my associates sometimes tell me, like, you don't want more cases. I'm like, no, I want cases, but I want to know, particularly for litigation, like, if we're going to battle, I need my client to be all in, and they need to understand the consequences, because it can spiral out of control, and like, and whether you have, especially, this is another one that you have bad counsel on the other side or inexperienced counsel on the other hand. Sometimes clients think, that we're going to get some advantage on this. It works out the opposite in my experience. They raise so many random things, and you got to start attacking all of those different things.
And there's not much you can do, right? They file some frivolous motion. I mean, you can go out, you could try 5715, but good luck, right? Right. And the cost it's going to take you to get to that point, like, so it's difficult. I agree with you. 100%. If the counsel on the other side is, I mean, it's almost like if they're so unorthodox that you don't even know what to do because they're not following the rules, it's going to cost money to figure out what are we going to do? They filed this motion, I have to respond to it, I have to go to the hearing, right? So that creates that's a whole nother
We were just discussing a case on Friday. I have a potential client, got completely screwed. Fraud, the people are going to jail, federal indictments were filed. He lost a little under $100,000. I don't know what to do because this guy got screwed out of his mind. Licensed brokers involved, like, that's the pocket we've been looking at. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense. Unless, is there a fee shifting theory we can think of? I said, what about all the other people? Can we bring them all together? Then it makes sense. Now we're talking hundreds of thousands. It just, that's where the system just isn't made anymore. I think when I first started practice, like 50 grand. Now I usually say around 100,000. That's the number I tell people. So listen, if you're not missing $100,000, it's really hard unless you're suing Boeing or Microsoft and the money's coming. Right. But even then, hopefully there's a fee shifting because if we're going to spend $70,000 to get 100, good, congrats, you got $30,000 in your pocket, right? So it's hard. The system's hard right now. I think we need more judges. I think each judge should have a clerk, even the state level, at least at the circuit level. The legislators gotta fund it. You gotta find the money. But I do think we need more judges, especially in Dade.
When you look at the dockets that they have, as a younger lawyer, sometimes I was like, man, if you would have only read my motion, or if you would only listen to this. You get a little frustrated because you're investing so much time, but as you start to understand a little bit more about how much work they have, like how they're switching from case to case, I agree. We need more judges.
And we've been getting a few more every year. It's been good, but judges still have thousands and thousands of dockets, cases on their dockets. I was at a calendar call last week, and there was a 2010 case. And the judge said, "This is my oldest case. I need to get rid of this case. We're going to trial. You're number one." Because now they have to report any case over 3 years old to the Supreme Court and explain to the Supreme Court why this case hasn't been pending. And then a 2012 case came up, and they just amended the complaint for like the 5th time. He's like, "Are you serious?" And like, "Well, we're going. Okay, you got 120 days, and we're going." You know, I feel for them. It's hard. The dockets are crazy. Even on the eviction stuff, you know, like I just said, 30,000 evictions, and county court judges have massive dockets. A lot of their cases get defaulted, get ruled, you know, a little quicker, but we need more judges. I mean, for us to be able to do our job better, and for someone to lose $100,000 and feel like they have a way to get that money back, we need more judges. If you want to talk the political side.
Yeah. Well, good segue.
Yeah, no, that is an excellent segue. So, how did you get into local government, and what prompted you? I've had some limited exposure, and it's not my cup, but
I've always been interested in government. I went to school in D.C., interned for a congresswoman. So I've always been interested in it, and I moved to Miami Lakes in 2018, and actually I got involved with rock mine blasting, which I have an interesting case now about it, not with the town, but privately. So I got on a board, because there's rock, you know, I'm sure your clients know, there's rock mines, the rock mine belt. So there's blasting near Miami Lakes, Northwest Dade. We feel the blast daily. Our homes shake, they get damaged. Oh wow! So I got involved with advocacy and that, and then I decided to run. And I won unopposed. Nobody wanted to run against me, which made it a little easier. I still knocked on all the doors and whatnot, and I love it. It's awesome. You really try to make a difference in your town, difference for the future. When I'm up there, most of my decisions, I'm looking at it. What does this decision mean 5, 10, 20 years down the line? And I think we have a good group up there. We've been doing things to try to push the town in the right direction. But it's just about, you know, I've never served in the military. I'm not in law enforcement. So what's the best way to serve? I honestly think local government, if you haven't served your country some way, local government is a really good way to do it, because you care and you're trying to make your town a better place.
Yeah. That's part of the reason, primary reason I got involved. I was like, I know a little bit about this. Let me see how I can help. And I started on a board, and I'm from my city of South Miami, and the constraints that we deal with, right? Like, we're making, I'm on the finance committee, right? So we're making decisions on finance and budget, but we just have all these restrictions, either based on where the funding came from, or the law, or what's required, or what the tax situation is going to look like. And sometimes you feel a little helpless, like, and look, we have a great board. Everybody on the board, we generally like unanimously agree on most of what's happening, but doesn't mean we can actually put it into place. And that's always been my frustration, with the bureaucracy of government, and they depend on, the funding that comes down on taxes and all that. And that's the frustration, that you're dedicating this time, and then you maybe don't feel like you're really moving the needle, but you feel like you're making a difference. Yeah.
I mean, we are. I think we are. I mean, one thing we recently did was secured 30 acres of land owned by a developer. It's currently an old golf course that hasn't been used as a golf course for a long time. We secured a covenant that the town will have the right to take it. They're willing to donate it for 10 years in the 10-year period. So I'm definitely going to do that before I go. Because that's the largest piece of green space left. Like, that is a legacy park that we will provide to the town of Miami Lakes, future residents, things like that. But also just making like every day feel better, and making people try to trust government a little bit, because people don't trust government at all, like you just said. And I feel this. We feel the same constraints. We have this budget in front of us, but there's money that comes from the county from a transportation half-penny tax. We can only use it for certain things, or we're stuck using part of it for freebie services. I don't want it. Personally, I don't think it's a good way. It's a good use of $400,000-$500,000, but we can only use it for transit. And so far, that's the only idea that our staff has come up with. But I think right now we're trying to be. I'm willing to toe the line and use money, because we're all using it for the public benefit, right? But we have the same constraints, the same issues. And then, honestly, Tallahassee keeps taking control from local government every single session. It gets worse and worse and worse. And I like my legislators. I'm friends with them, the ones that represent our area. They do a good job. But when they vote against that, I disagree with them. And they vote against the interests of local governments. And I am a firm believer, and I think it's true, the local government is the closest to people. It is the government that people can trust the most. It's the government that people that can get in contact with the most.
And it affects them the most.
And it affects them every day the most. Your potholes, your trash, your parks, schools, and your school board. I mean, it's everyday life. But everyone is very focused on the big issues that you see on social media and you see on TV, and they're not so much focused on the local issues that really affect your everyday life. But as long as you just keep trying, and I really try to be open and out there for people, and it's been interesting.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I think this is really helpful, and I think people that listen in will be able to get some good information, and hopefully they'll start to trust their lawyers a little bit and reach out.
Exactly.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
it was a lot of fun.